Good evening, everybody. It's Michael Player coming to you from Kilgore. Tonight, I want to talk to you about a topic that's particularly special to me, a disorder that we all know as post-traumatic stress disorder. Uh, Stress is an everyday part of our lives, especially at the pace that we move about today and what we consider to be normal. But with such an abundance of moving parts every day, it makes us more susceptible to being exposed to a traumatic event. Instances such as assault, major occupational stressors, terroristic acts, combat-related environments, traffic crashes, etc. Any situation where one can feel that their life has been put in danger can all potentially lead to the development of psychological disorder. And one of the most prominent or key psychological disorders being diagnosed today is post-traumatic stress disorder. Um, Post-traumatic stress disorder is defined as a disorder that develops after one has been exposed to a traumatic event or a series of traumatic events in which they feel that their life has been or was put in danger. Now, some of the common symptoms of this disorder are disturbing flashbacks, nightmares. Many times people will avoid conversations about the event that they incurred or avoid a certain area of where uh, the experience took place. Um, they will take any measures necessary to numb any memories that they have of the experience that they went through that caused them to develop this disorder. Excuse me. Um, and lastly, hyperarousal is also a symptom of this disorder, and that they all continue for a time frame that's longer than a month after the experience uh, that they have gone through. The term for post-traumatic stress disorder was not added to the DSM until the early 80s. However, a working group findings doing some research in 1978 correlated this with a disorder known as gross stress reaction that was identified in the 1952 edition of DSM, and they were able to correlate the two, but adding the term post-traumatic stress disorder in the when we think about PTSD, uh, what comes to mind normally for me would be soldiers coming off of combat, public servants such as firemen, police officers, nurses, um, in any type of situation where um, what we would consider trauma is a part of their everyday 8 to 10 work hour day. Um, but where I have personally, I went wrong, and one of the uh, misconceptions about this is that the disorder does not necessarily develop because of these type of situations. Each individual is different, and their perception of a particular event and how it affects their life is how this disorder becomes about. Now, the military experiences that our Vietnam veterans incurred uh, greatly influenced the terminology and the definition of post-traumatic stress disorder and how it is defined in the DSM today because of the symptoms and the behaviors that were displayed by them. PTSD has now been closely associated with many of the wartime diagnoses that date back to the early 19th century. Another misconception about this disorder is that it will develop immediately following a traumatic event. Uh, However, it can take months and even years, depending on the individual, as to how long it will take or could take to potentially develop full-blown post-traumatic stress disorder. Some of the key criteria, again, I gave you a couple of the symptoms, but some of the key criteria for identifying this disorder is uh, an individual that has a history of experiencing, confronting, or had witnessed an event or series of events in to involve death, serious bodily injury, or the danger of the physical integrity of others having to go through the same thing. The event persistently is re-experienced and it causes distress just by the recollection of it. It causes distress in dreams, like I said earlier, as far as nightmares, flashbacks, and to the point that they relive the experience. Um, Distress is caused by simple reminders of the event, as like a conversation or a building or anything that just could serve as a reminder to them. A persistent avoidance of those reminders are another key factor in the criteria for diagnosing this disorder. Um, when you think about the arousal, a few of the points are they'll show difficulty sleeping. Excuse me, I try to go too fast and I get tongue tied. They become irritable. They have poor concentration, which I know a lot of us working adults in grad school have a problem with that already. Hypervigilant, and they have an exaggerated startle response. Personally, I could tell you from being a veteran for nearly 10 years and a former police officer that the exaggerated startle response is a very tough thing to deal with, and the lack of sleep oftentimes increases the irritability. So it can be a booger. Um, there are a variety of effects that coincide, excuse me, with this disorder from short term to long term. Short term being uh, a flashback or um, something of that nature, and long term even something to like insomnia that I can again speak from personal experience that leads to substance abuse problems. Um, in 2012, when I was diagnosed as suffering or diagnosed as having post-traumatic stress disorder, I kind of laughed at the notion because at the time of Iraq and Afghanistan, I was serving as a drill sergeant. I had deployed to the former Yugoslavia Bosnian theater, but never really considered it to be a hot zone. So um, I just considered the doctor to have been given a wrong diagnosis. But while I was, or prior to being diagnosed, I can honestly say that reading the checklist, I'm having known that's what they're looking at now. I met nearly every one of these factors, and I was susceptible to alcohol abuse just at the drop of a hat. So fortunately, I don't suffer from that any longer, and there are methods being developed every day, various therapy methods that are helping people that suffer from this disorder. Um, Due to the amount of tragic events or traumatic events that we've all seen as a country since the attacks of 9/11, more case studies and research are being done to better help the individuals who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Uh, Everything from medication therapy, behavioral therapy, a combination of such, and group therapy that are really improving the quality of life for individuals. So that's my brief overview of post-traumatic stress disorder. It's under 10 minutes, and if any of you knew me, that's no easy feat for me. So I wish you all the best of luck, and God bless.